G'day Warbanders and welcome back to another video. This time I'm giving you some tips on how to expand early and some considerations you might want to think about when playing with EU5 Conquest. I like EU5 expansion because it's way different to other Paradox games. You can't just blob mindlessly. We don't really care about the markets, man. We don't care about the trade. We just want to conquer because, you know, the market's unpredictable. So Conquest is the best way forward, I believe. But still, that's up for debate. But yeah, the first tip I want to give is that, took me a while to learn, is that the way to get CBs early on is to go through your parliament. And if you click on this and click on your parliament, you'll see that I'm in a parliament right now, and you can fabricate Casus Belli's here for 50% parliament support. And like, how do you get that parliament support? Well, you get that by, you know, doing these parliament agendas. I've already done this for Genoa, but basically you got to get 50% parliament support to get a CB, which allows you to just, you know, do wars more efficiently or declare wars more efficiently than just doing without a CB, because without a CB you're just taking a hit. But you want to be careful about your parliament agendas. Like, containing banking's a bit of a hit, but you got to weigh up the costs. Like, you know, do I want to make the nobility happy? But this is a pretty small parliament support bonus, so that's not really worth it. But this might be, you know, granting a privilege to the clergy. You know, it makes the other estates not happy, but it gets our parliament support up. And this is actually a pretty alright privilege. But again, some of these will be pretty bad, so you want to like weigh up your options. Some will be better than others. But yeah, you want to get that parliament support 50% to get CBs, which allows you to conquer. But once you have that CB, you want to consider your valuable RGOs, right? So when you've got that CB in your pocket through Parliament, or just declaring a war without a CB, which I'll get to talking about in a second, is that when we're considering conquest, you want to find areas that give us good RGOs. So in the classic Victoria 2 style, we want to try and find the best RGOs, the best things for our market to exploit that we can, you know, bring into our market and also sell to other markets if possible, for making pretty good production of those RGOs. We also want to consider like the population as well. So the reason why I'm taking over Genoa, for example, so this is a possible target, is Genoa. The reason why I'm choosing Genoa as my future war target in the early game is because they own this marketplace, this market center, which gives them a lot of trade advantage, which allows them to control their market. They also have more dibs on the goods there. Like, I'm in this market and I want this market, and, you know, taking out, you know, someone who holds the market, like controls it, is a good option for your early expansion, because then you get control of the market. You have way more control over what's happening in that market. So that's one reason. And as I said before, you want to go off those RGOs, because you're going to be like, exploiting the RGOs way more efficiently than the AI ever could, because the AI may not want to exploit that RGO, and then you're like just wondering, where's the food or where's the RGOs? Like, because that's another reason, is that, you know, you may want to exploit something that the AI doesn't want to, right? And, you know, you can see here that in this example, when I'm playing as Milan, you know, Genoa has a lot of good RGOs, like dyes. You know, I can sell that for a good profit. This is used in textile mills, which is more of a profit good. And I can sell this to other places where they might not have dyes, or I can, you know, you know, put this in my production chain and sell for a higher profit. So that's a high value good. Also, silks is really good for money. Also, you know, fish for your pops. You know, you say if you're running a deficit on your needs, which I'm not at the moment. Like, I have a couple little needs. Like, I have like a -3 deficit, which isn't huge, but, you know, taking some fish over, that might be good because it gives me a lot of food. You know, just try and take over, you know, RGOs that are going to give you, you know, a good balance of things for your market. Like, I might not want to take over wine because I already have a good balance of wine in the market. So there's no point in me trying to control that and trying to, you know, get that. So just going for your high value provinces is always a good idea. And also lumber is always a sweet one. It just basically makes your construction cheaper. And having cheaper construction is always good, because it allows you to influence the market way more, because you have more money available, because you're not wasting a lot of money on trying to import, you know, construction goods. That makes it easier to, you know, snowball in that sense in the economic side. Another crucial thing that I think a lot of people might miss out on if they're not, because they're coming from other Paradox games where you can blob endlessly, but in this game you actually have to you have to actually make vassals or fiefdoms, whichever one is the best for you. I personally prefer vassals because I can integrate them faster when I want. So say if I'm getting good control techs, you know, I might, you know, bring them back into the fold. But as you can see here, I have a couple of vassals, and the reason because of that is because it's a control mechanic. So as you can see here, if I click on control, I don't actually exert a lot of control in this small country. So it's actually probably beneficial for me to make custom vassals and put them over here or these low control areas. But I am getting, you know, a monthly change of 0.46. So in the long term, I will get control over this, especially as the game progresses when, you know, you get techs that influence this. But as you can see here, I get nothing. Absolutely nothing from controlling these provinces. Barely any tax. I get 0.6 tax. Like it's nuts. So you want to control, you want to like release vassals, and you know, Genoa, for example, when I go to war with them, I'm going to turn them into a vassal because it's way more efficient. As you'll see here, if I go to my balances, you'll see I'm making a lot of money from just vassals, and that'll be way more than me just controlling the land directly. Okay, like look, $2. That's a huge amount of money for me controlling like one of these vassals, like Parma, for example. Like I'm only 1.53 from just that small province there because it's like a nice, you know, province, right? But they're like they're constantly building their buildings and earning me money. So, you know, vassals in the early game are really important for expanding and just expanding your reach and all that. And also, you may want to hold on to land like this because I am integrating some of these lands because I don't have calls on them, so I have to, you know, integrate them. And sometimes if you're close to integrating a province, it might be a good idea just to keep it instead. It depends on what you want to do. Maybe you don't have enough diplomatic capacity to create vassals. Maybe you've used all that up. So if I go to diplomacy, you'll see there's diplomatic capacity here. And, you know, if you're running a deficit on diplomatic capacity, you may want to take over the land instead. Or you may want to chill out and not take over land, just chill out until you get more of this. Because, you know, if, it does cost a bit to create vassals as well in terms of diplomatic capacity. And if you go below this, you're going to suffer on your crown control. It just gives you some nasty debuffs if you go below this. So be careful about expanding. You know, expand thoughtfully. Don't just mindlessly bob because you're just going to get a lot of debuffs. You won't be able to get any money from your provinces or any goods or anything really, just because of this control mechanic. And at least in the early game, I'm talking about the early game here. And also, when you're taking land, I got an example war here. When you're taking land or creating vassals, that creates a thing called antagonism or aggressive expansion, similar to EU4. So if you take a lot of land or create a lot of vassals under your control, you're going to piss people off immensely. And I cucked myself one time playing as England, taking over Brambian here, for example. And I took all their land and I formed this massive coalition that even involved France, and then I lost all of it. So just be very mindful about what lands you're taking. Say, for example, if I, you know, give all this land to my ally here in this ally war, you can see my antagonism goes up, and that's going to bring people into a coalition against me. And even just a couple of provinces, these minor provinces, I'm already getting a coalition forming. So 6 countries will have enough antagonism to join a coalition. Now, it depends on your starting situation. Like, do you care if all these minor countries get involved? Probably not. You could probably tank the coalition and survive. But it becomes more of a problem when, you know, bigger countries get involved. And, you know, the closer it is to rival powers, that's when it becomes dangerous taking land nearby because they're going to get involved, right? And, you know, each, you know, province does have a thing that influences its antagonism. So as you can see here, if I take the upper Carinthia province, I take 8 antagonism because, you know, it's just more valuable. So just be very selective and try and get as much land as possible without antagonizing a huge nation. by looking at this tooltip here. You'll see it in the breakdown. So just be very mindful about your expanding. It's a delicate balance of expanding as much as possible without angering all your major powers in the region. Okay, you could probably fight the coalition if you want, if you're really skilled, but you know, if you don't think you can take them, just be very mindful. Another thing you may also want to consider is that, yes, land's always good, you know, tax is always good, more pops is always good, more RGOs, more, you know, taking land, like in the terms of vassals and all that, that's all well and good. But you also may want to cuck your rivals. So when you go to war, and maybe if I get, like say if I'm getting involved in this war here, and I want to cuck Gorizia for some reason, if they're a major power, you know, I could tell them, hey, like, please give me war operations, annul your treaties, you know, give me food access. I can release their vassals, but I can't do it with this war. So if you're, say if I got into a war with France and say hypothetically I won that war, but they weren't like the main dude I was targeting, maybe if I was conquering Provence, for example, and they were allied, you know, don't be afraid to make peace with them and take, like, you know, cancel their buildings or annul their treaties or make them pay war reparations to you, and, you know, release their subjects, like just implode them. Because even though they're not your main war target, you can like cuck a rival power and they won't be able to stop you later on. So when I'm expanding Italy and I win a war against France, like take that opportunity and just, you know, block them from building, make them pay you war reparations, all those little treaties that are not directly giving you land, but just hampering your rival powers, so they're not going to like get involved with you because they're too weak, right? So don't be afraid, again, to just cuck out your rival powers over here if they get involved in one of your wars, even if they're not the main war target. And also, don't be afraid to declare wars without CBs, okay? This game, while it does encourage you to create CBs, you know, if you have a lot of stability, like I do right now, I have 48 stability, like I could take the stability hit and declare war without a CB, and I'd save a lot of time, right? And even though it will, you know, be less efficient, I'll still be able to make vassals. It'll just cost me a little bit more in terms of antagonism. But you may want to do this if, you know, you can take the other countries. Like all these little countries, like they might not be as powerful as me. I might be worried if like all of these got involved, but it depends on your situation. If you have a lot of weak countries around you that have like barely any soldiers, you may want to just declare no CB wars. For instance, I was playing as England and I was able to declare non-CB wars to save time in Ireland to consolidate my control over Ireland. But since like there was no major nations that were getting involved in terms of the antagonism, like I didn't have to worry about coalitions, because, you know, major powers only get involved if they have like a vested interest in that place, or if they're very close to it, right? If they're far away, they won't get involved in a coalition. Okay, the least that can happen is probably Scotland gets involved, but that's it. So don't be afraid to declare no CB wars just to get those vassals pumping, because once you get those vassals pumping out, you'll be making tons of money in terms of this diplomacy income. And also, when you're creating vassals, just make sure that, you know, you want to make them big enough so like you're not filling out this diplomatic capacity too much, because the more vassals you have, the more, you know, you're going to be paying this diplomatic capacity. So just be mindful about not creating too many little vassals. Just make like big ones that are more efficient in terms of diplomatic capacity. As you can see here, this Monteferret vassal is, you know, much more expensive in terms of diplomatic capacity, because they have a higher rank, higher power. You know, just consider that. Compared to Lucia, you know, they have less. So consider those factors when you're creating vassals and trying to get, you know, min-maxing the diplomatic capacity so you're not getting those nasty debuffs. So yeah, guys, this is my, like, you know, general considerations or thoughts about expanding early in EU5. Of course, there's lots of little factors here or there, but those are the main principles that have helped me in expanding as Milan or England. just being very mindful about your expansion. You just can't take over land. It's not like EU4 Crusader Kings where I can just, tank everything and just take over all the land. Like, it's not like that, especially in the early game where you just don't have a lot of text to deal with it. So you just have to create vassals. That's the main thing you got to take away from this video, is that just create vassals. You get way more money out of it. And then later on, you can just integrate them later. And that's the main thing for expansion. And also, you get access to their goods still because they're in your market. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You're still getting access to resources. So win-win. G'day Warbanders, and thanks for watching the video. I really appreciate it. If you want to support me, please like and subscribe and tell me your thoughts about the video. It pushes my video more into the algorithm, which is what I want, and also how you can help me the most. But if you're more inclined, you can support me through my Buy Me a Coffee link in my channel description, or by signing up for a YouTube membership where I give out custom emojis and early access to videos I'm making. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.